He had been watching the clock since the moment he left the construction office. The red numbers on the dashboard glowing like a warning he couldn't escape. 6 minutes late already. The traffic light ahead turned yellow, then red, and Daniel Cross felt his chest tighten as he pressed his palm against the steering wheel. He had promised, not just casually, not the way adults sometimes promise things they half expect to break. This was one of those promises that mattered. Sophie's first violin solo, her first time standing alone on a stage, bow trembling in her hand, searching the audience for the one face that made her feel brave. His face. Daniel had learned, painfully and completely, that being both mother and father meant showing up every time. Ever since Jennifer died, since cancer had hollowed out their lives and left him holding a 7-year-old girl who kept asking when mommy was coming home, Daniel had sworn that Sophie would never feel abandoned again. He would be there, always. School plays, parent-teacher meetings, scraped knees, late-night fears. He had rearranged his entire life around that vow. Tonight was supposed to be simple. He had dropped Sophie at the Grand Meridian Hotel 2 hours earlier so she could rehearse with the other students. He remembered how excited she was, clutching her violin case like it held something alive. "Dad, promise you'll sit where I can see you," she had said. He smiled at the memory even as traffic crawled forward by inches. The evening sun washed the city in gold and amber, reflecting off glass buildings and car windows, beautiful and cruel in its indifference. Daniel checked his phone again, even though he already knew what it would say. 5:54 p.m., 6 minutes until the recital began. 12 minutes until Sophie's solo. His phone buzzed. Sophie's name lit up the screen. "Dad, are you coming?" He typed back quickly, thumbs clumsy with urgency. "Almost there, sweetheart. Wouldn't miss it for the world." The words felt like a promise renewed as he turned into the circular drive of the Grand Meridian Hotel. Relief flooded him. He was here, late but here. He would slip inside quietly, catch her eye, give her that small nod he always did when she was nervous. Everything would be okay. Then he saw her at first. It didn't register as danger. Just a woman near a black sedan, dressed in a gray business suit, her posture stiff. Maybe an argument, he thought. Maybe a rushed goodbye. But something was wrong. The way her body twisted, the way her hands clawed at the air, the look on her face. Pure terror, wide-eyed and silent. A man in a black mask had his arm locked around her neck, dragging her toward the open car door. Another masked man stood by, scanning the entrance. Daniel's foot hovered over the brake. His heart slammed against his ribs. The hotel doorman stood frozen, one hand half raised, unsure whether to act. Bystanders stared, their shock turning them into statues. Daniel's first instinct was denial. This can't be happening. Not now. Not here. His second instinct was fear. His third was Sophie. Inside that hotel, his daughter was standing backstage with a violin tucked under her chin, believing her father was about to walk through the doors, believing he would keep his promise that he could park the car, run inside, and pretend he hadn't seen anything. Someone else would help. Someone always did. That was how people survived moments like this, by believing responsibility belonged to someone else. But what if no one did? Jennifer's voice rose in his memory, gentle and firm, the way it always had been. Do what's right, even when it's hard. Daniel threw the car into park right where it was and shoved the door open. "Let her go!" he shouted, his voice cracking through the air. For a split second, everything stopped. The masked man holding the woman turned his head. The second man tensed. The doorman gasped. Then Daniel was running. He didn't think. He didn't plan. His body remembered what his mind barely had time to process. Years earlier, before he was a father, before he was a widower, he had been a Marine. Training had carved reflexes into his bones. The masked man shoved the woman toward the car door and lunged for Daniel. Daniel ducked, drove his shoulder forward, and felt ribs give under the impact. Pain shot through him, sharp and hot, but he kept moving. The woman stumbled free, choking, one hand pressed to her throat. "Run!" Daniel shouted. She didn't. Instead, she grabbed a heavy ceramic planter near the entrance and swung it with everything she had. It shattered against the second attacker's shoulder, sending shards flying. Chaos erupted. The doorman finally snapped into action, yelling into his radio. Hotel security poured through the doors. The first masked man charged again, faster this time. Daniel tried to move, but a blow glanced off his temple, sending stars across his vision. He staggered back, hitting the side of the sedan. Somewhere in the blur, he saw the woman crawling away, saw the second attacker turning toward her again. Daniel forced himself forward, grabbed the man's jacket, and yanked him backward. They crashed onto the pavement together. He felt fists, elbows, knees, pain everywhere, but distant, unreal sirens wailed. The attackers froze, exchanged a look, then bolted for the car. Tires screeched as the sedan tore away, leaving black marks on the pristine driveway. Daniel collapsed onto the ground, gasping, his head pounding like a drum. The woman rushed to him, shaking, her suit torn, hair falling loose. "Are you all right?" she asked. "Thank you. Oh my God. Thank you." Security surrounded them. Questions overlapped. Someone called for an ambulance. Daniel looked at his watch, 6:15. The number hit him harder than any punch. Sophie's solo was over. He imagined her standing on stage, scanning the crowd, her heart sinking with each second he wasn't there. The thought hollowed him out. His phone rang. Sophie's name. He answered, his voice heavy. "Sophie, sweetheart, where were you?" she asked. Her voice was small and hurt. "I'm so sorry," he said. "Something happened and I couldn't." "You promised." The line went dead. Daniel closed his eyes, pain burning behind them. Later, after police reports and paramedics, after he refused treatment he probably needed, the woman sat beside him on the curb. Her name was Victoria Hayes, a corporate attorney targeted because of a case she refused to abandon. "You lost something important because of me?" she said quietly. "Because someone needed help?" Daniel replied, though the words felt thin. Inside the hotel, the recital had ended. Daniel found Sophie in the lobby, her violin case at her feet, her dress wrinkled. She didn't look at him. She walked past him without a word. The silence that followed was worse than shouting, worse than anger at a tea home. Sophie withdrew into herself, polite, distant, practicing with the door closed. Daniel felt like he was watching his daughter slip away inch by inch. When Victoria called days later, asking to make things right, Daniel didn't believe that was possible, but she insisted. On Saturday morning, she arrived with musicians from the city symphony. She told Sophie the truth. She told her that her father had saved her life, that he had chosen to help a stranger even when it cost him the moment he wanted most. Sophie listened, tears spilling freely. Then she played at in their living room, surrounded by strangers who believed in her. Sophie played the piece again. This time, her father was there. This time, he didn't miss a single note. When she finished, Daniel clapped until his hands hurt, his heart full and aching all at once. Later, Sophie crawled into his lap. "I'm sorry I was mad," she whispered. "You had every right to be," he said, holding her close. "Next time," she said, "if someone needs help, can we help them together?" Daniel smiled through tears. "Yes, always. Sometimes doing the right thing costs you something precious. Sometimes it costs you more than you think you can bear. But sometimes, if you're lucky, it gives you something back that's even more meaningful. Understanding, forgiveness, and a lesson that lasts a lifetime." In the weeks that followed, the silence between Daniel and Sophie slowly softened. It did not disappear all at once, but it changed shape. Sophie began leaving her bedroom door open while she practiced. Sometimes Daniel would pause outside, listening, afraid to interrupt, grateful just to hear the music again. They talked more, not only about the recital, but about fear, courage, and the moments in life when there are no perfect choices. Sophie kept playing the violin, but now with something deeper in her sound. She understood that her father's absence had not been neglect, but sacrifice. Daniel, in turn, learned that love meant not only doing what was right, but also helping a child understand why it mattered. On the night of Sophie's next performance, Daniel arrived early. He sat in the front row, hands folded, heart steady. When Sophie walked onto the stage, she didn't search the crowd this time. She already knew he was there. When the music began, Daniel felt something finally settle inside him. He had not lost his daughter. He had taught her something stronger than any promise, that doing the right thing, even when it hurts, is a form of love that never fades. And as the final note echoed through the hall, Daniel knew this was the ending that mattered most.